Nintendo Switch 2. It's been a while since I've made a video talking about the Switch 2, so today I wanted to sit down and talk about when I think this thing will actually be announced. Because to be honest with you, and maybe this is hyper optimism at this point, I actually do think it will be announced, or at least confirmed, within the next 3 weeks. Let's get into why. Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games, and today we are talking about the Nintendo Switch 2 and when I think this dang console will be revealed. Now, I haven't made a video on the Switch 2 since like early March, back when that Switch attached thing happened, so I feel like it's been long enough now to kind of have an updated perspective on what's going on in the Switch 2 community. Although Nintendo itself hasn't said anything, you know, it's been a while, and I just feel like, you know, based on vibes, I wanted to get my gut, take on what is going on with the Switch 2 at this point, because we haven't heard anything from Nintendo, we haven't heard anything from any insiders, really, other than that there was supposedly going to be an April Direct, and now that isn't happening. But when is the Switch 2 being announced? My current thought is still before May 7th, and here's why. So, Nintendo's year-end investor meeting is on May 7th. If you don't know what that means, basically they're going to talk to their investors and tell them what their plans are for the next fiscal year, while also reflecting on their successes and failures for the prior fiscal year. They will give projections for their sales. They will project how many Switch consoles they're going to sell, how much revenue they're going to bring, and all of that stuff, all of the nerdy data stuff. If Nintendo is planning on releasing a new major piece of hardware by the end of the next fiscal year, so that ends on March 31st, 2025, which is when a lot of us think the Switch 2 will release, if they're planning on releasing it by then, they don't have to say something, but it is very unlikely that they would say nothing at this investor meeting, or maybe slightly beforehand so they can talk about it at the investor meeting, because they want to let investors know, like, hey, now's a good time, give us your money, invest in us, because we're releasing new hardware that will hopefully do very, very good. And this isn't just like baseless speculation. Nintendo's been doing this a lot, specifically for their past 3 consoles. They've always announced their new console like right before an investor meeting. So just a little bit of a history lesson here. For their 3 most recent consoles, Nintendo's always done this. So on March 23rd, 2010, they released this press release, and it's very simple. It could have easily been faked. It looks like a fake thing that someone on like 4chan would make. To whom it may concern, launch of new portable game machine. Nintendo will launch a Nintendo 3DS during the fiscal year ending March 2011. They announced it right before the end of that fiscal year so they could talk about it in their earnings that year, and then of course fully unveil the console and show it off at E3, in which they actually said like, hey, we're going to show it off at E3, but here's the name, and yes, we are planning on releasing a new handheld device in this fiscal year. Similarly, in April of 2011, on April 25th, they just said, hey, we're releasing the successor to the Wii in 2012. Look forward to E3, where we will show more. Once again, right before their kind of year-end physical meeting. And then finally for the Switch, they confirmed plans to release a console codenamed NX that would be described as a brand new concept. They announced that on March 17th, 2015 at a conference with DNA. At the same time, they were announcing all of their mobile plans, I think also like the Universal stuff at that time. But that was, once again, right before their year-end physical meeting. So, what can you take from that? Well, you can take that it means Nintendo likes to announce, or at least confirm very softly, their new hardware right before the end of their fiscal year. Not reveal it to the masses, not, release a trailer showing off the hardware and games, but they like to announce either the name of the console or a code name, or at least, kind of voice their intent of releasing new hardware in the following fiscal year. And in the case of the NX, well, I guess it was probably likely that they were planning on releasing the NX in 2016. I think we do know that from Kimishima. But either way, they didn't say 2016. So in that case, it was about 2 years from when they confirmed it. But the point is, for the past 3 Nintendo consoles, they have all been announced in March or April, right before a major fiscal year meeting for Nintendo, which to me indicates that if we are getting the Switch 2 in the next 12 months, we'll say, they would announce it before May 7th when their next investor meeting is. Listen, you know me, I've been saying 2025 this entire time. That has been I've planted my flag on Team 2025 back in like 2022. I've been making videos about this thing releasing in March 2025 for a very long time. And while I hate to say it, I honestly do think that if it is not confirmed before then, the likelihood of it releasing in this next 12-month period is gonna fall dramatically. Like, to the point where I would say, okay, maybe holiday 2025, but honestly, at that point, maybe March 2026. I know no one wants to hear that, but considering they've done this for their past 3 consoles, you would think they would do it again for their new console, the new successor to the Switch. They're going to want to let investors know about that if it is releasing in the next 12-month period following their investor meeting. It just makes too much sense. So we'll have to wait and see. Once again, I do think this would be another press release kind of thing. I don't know if we would necessarily get a code name. I think they might just release a press release where they're like, hey, we're releasing the successor to the Switch in the next, 12 months or whatever. Maybe they would even say March 2025, right? But, I don't think it's going to be a full reveal trailer. We're not going to see games here. Optimistically, maybe, if we do get this press release, they say, hey, come back in, I want to say June, but realistically, later in the year is what they would say. Come back later in the year for us to, see the console and see the games for it. Because at this point, with no April Direct, of course, maybe we get one this week. I doubt it. But with no April Direct right now, I think that means we'll likely get a final Nintendo Switch 1 Focus Direct in June with a Switch 2 kind of reveal event in September or October. Probably September, though. But that's, of course, assuming it does release in March. I mean, like I said, we've been hearing, I think it was Nikkei, or it was one of these outlets, I can't remember it off the top of my head, that were saying, like, hey, the intent right now is to release it in March 2025, although that may get pushed even further. Which I will say this, if it does not release in March 2025, that I would say completely kills the idea that it was ever even planned for 2024, because I'm still not fully convinced it was ever planned, like, solidified for a 2024 release date internally. I don't think that really ever happened, and if it doesn't release in March 2025, I would say that basically confirms that, because I still see people saying it was supposed to come out in 2023, and I'm just like, no, that definitely was never the case. It's a weird time for Nintendo fans. I've done multiple videos recently talking about the lack of news and how empty the second half of the year is. I did that video, I think, on Friday last week, so definitely go check out that. But I think we just have to wait a little bit longer. I could be completely wrong here. Don't take my word as fact. Don't take their pattern in the past as fact of, like, saying, like, oh yeah, we're definitely getting a Switch 2 announcement or confirmation in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But based on that, I do think it's not unlikely, certainly. But we'll see. I'm not going to be disappointed if it doesn't happen. I would like to hear something concrete. Although, once again, like I was saying, maybe them not saying anything would be pretty concrete, If we don't hear about this thing in May, it's unlikely it releases in the first half of next year, I would argue. I don't think we'll have to wait too much longer for news either way, as Nintendo fans. If we're not getting a Direct in April or May, like I said, I think June makes sense, so we'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. How are you feeling about the Nintendo Switch 2? When do you think this dang console is finally going to be confirmed? I know there's a lot of people in my comments that think it still doesn't even exist. And honestly, if it doesn't release until 2026, my hat's off to you. I was right about it not being 2024, but I was definitely not expecting it to be that late if that does end up happening. But I really don't think they'll wait until 2026. I do think it will release next March. That's where my gut is right now, which would mean I think it'll be announced or confirmed before May 7th. But I guess it's not necessarily a guaranteed rule. If you look at their older console reveals, like the Revolution, I think was announced in, I want to say June, so like right after their investor meeting. So it's not necessarily a tried and true rule, but for their past 3 consoles, they have confirmed them out right before that May meeting. So we'll have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. How are you feeling about the Switch 2? When do you think it'll be announced, revealed, release, all of that stuff? I would love to get a conversation going down in the comments below. And until next time, folks, peace.